Hi, 7th graders. We're on Lesson 8.1, Part 2, which is simplifying algebraic expressions by combining like terms. And that is on page 417 in your textbook. We're going to do a super quick review of the distributive property, which we did in class earlier today. So, if you recall, the number outside of the parentheses is the one that gets distributed in the parentheses. So we would take our negative 3 and we would multiply it by 4x, and we would take our negative 3 and we would multiply it by our 5. Since we have a subtraction, I'm going to change it to addition. We can change any subtraction to addition and make it adding a negative. So now we would have negative 3 times 4x plus negative 3 times negative 5. And we would get negative 3 times 4x. We would just multiply negative 3 and 4, so we get negative 12x. And then we have plus negative 3 times negative 5 is 15. And that would be our simplest form, or our expression simplified. Okay, so remember we are distributing our number into each number in the parentheses. We're not simplifying within the parentheses first. Okay, for this one we have our negative 3, and that's going to be distributed out again. So we're going to change our subtraction to addition. It makes it so much easier, so then we know if it's adding or subtracting or positive or negative. Okay, so now we know which numbers are positive, which numbers are negative, and we know that it's addition. So I'm going to rewrite this then as negative 3 times 2a plus negative 3 times negative 4b. We have negative 6a plus negative 3 times negative 4 is 12, so 12b. We cannot combine these anymore because this is an a and this is a b, so negative 6 plus 12b would be our simplest form. Okay, so if we want to simplify algebraic expressions even further when we have like terms, then we are going to look at, then we'll be able to go a little bit further after we distribute. So if we look at, let's look at negative 4x plus 12 plus x. Each of these three parts of our expression is called a term. Okay, so each part is a term. So negative 4x is a term, 12 is a term, x is a term. Okay, as you can see, like terms contain the same variables to the same powers. So because each of these have an x, negative 4x and x, these are called like terms. So negative 4x and x would be called like terms. Okay? If there is a number and a variable together, like negative 4 and x, then negative 4 would be called our coefficient because that's the number in front of a variable. Okay? So we have, and then our number, so our constant then is just a number alone. So 12 would be a constant. Okay, so we have a bunch of terms. So all of these are terms. Okay, so terms is the most vague out of all of them, the most broad term, okay? So if we want to combine like terms, then we want to look for terms that have the same variable. So I have a 4g, and I can see that there's also a 10g because it has a number and it has a variable. Okay, I have 3x, and even though it doesn't have a number, x is still the same as 1x, so 3x and x would be like terms. Okay, I have 4 and negative 17 because they don't have a variable, so those are actually both just constants. I have ab. Here I have ab, but it's ab squared, so ab and ab squared would not be like terms. And then I have xy squared and xy squared, so then these two would be like terms. Okay, so notice that these are not like terms, ab and ab squared, because b is squared here and it's not squared there. Even though they both have an a, but they have to have the exact same variables and same powers. These are called constants. So I'm going to draw a line because they do not have a variable. Okay? And then all the rest of these, all of these pairs are like terms. 3 would be a coefficient because it's in front of a variable. 1 would actually be a coefficient even though it's invisible, we don't have it. 4 would be our coefficient. -7 would be a coefficient. Okay? So we want to identify the terms, like terms, coefficients, and constants in the expression 6n minus 7n minus 4 plus n. So first of all, we're going to change everything to addition because that makes it so much easier when we're trying to combine terms. So the first step always is to change everything to addition. We know that we can take 6n minus 7n and make it 6n plus -7n plus -4 plus n. Okay, so now we're going to rewrite it then as 6n plus -7n plus -4 plus, and then because we're going to be combining n's, it does help to put a 1 in front of the n to remind us that yes, there is an n, and yes, there is a 1. So our terms then are all 4 of these, 6n, -7n, -4, and n, or 1n. So basically everything from our expression we're pulling down. Like terms then would be, because we have more than one term that has an n, so our like terms would be 6n, -7n, and n. And then our coefficients of our like terms would be 6, -7, and 1. And actually our coefficients don't have to be for like terms, they can be for any of the terms that have a variable. It's the number in front of the variable. And then our constant would be -4. It's the only one without a variable. Okay, there is a little bit more information in your book if that's still a little bit confusing. We have a couple more examples that we'll do. So if we have 9y minus 4 minus 11y plus 7, we're going to rewrite this using addition. So 9y plus -4 plus -11y plus 7. Okay, so our terms then would be 9y, oops, it's a little big, -4, -11y, and 7. Okay, see how I just broke it all apart and I took whatever, if it's positive or negative, whatever sign it is, and we're just breaking it all apart. Our like terms then would be 9y and -11y because they both have a y. And let's write it in a different color. It would be -4 and 7 because we can combine those. So 9y and -11y are like terms. -4 and 7 are like terms because they're constants. Our coefficients then are the numbers in front of our variables. So we have 9 and -11. Our constants are -4 and 7. So really fast, I want you to do this problem really quick. You can pause me, or you can try to go ahead and quicker than me and try to figure it out. If we have 3x plus 2 minus 10 minus 3x, we're going to rewrite it using addition. So 3x plus 2 plus -10 plus -3x. So our terms then are going to be 3x, 2, -10, and -3x. Our like terms are 3x and -3x, and also 2 and -10. So 3x and -3x are a pair of like terms, 2 and -10 are a pair of like terms. Coefficients would be 3 and -3, and constants would be 2 and negative 10. Okay, so if we want to simplify, so an algebraic expression is in simplest form if it has no like terms and no parentheses. We can use the distributive property to combine the like terms, and this is called simplifying the expression, which we've been talking about. So if we have 4y plus y, we know that 4y and y are like terms because they each have a y. 4y and y is the same as 4y plus 1y. So then we just add our coefficients together. So we would go 4 plus 1y or 5y because we know that 4 plus 1 is 5, so we would have 5y. So you can see we're actually going the opposite way. We're pulling out our constants, putting them in parentheses, and then pulling our variable out so it looks like the distributive property. So we just went backwards. Okay, so if we have 7x minus 2 minus 7x plus 6, we know that 7x and negative 7x are like terms. Negative 2 and 6 are also like terms. So we're going to rewrite it as 7x plus negative 2 plus negative 7x plus 6. So it helps to write them so they're like the like terms are next to each other. So 7x plus negative 7x plus negative 2 plus 6. We know that 7 plus negative 7, and then we have x. So we're pulling out our 7 and our negative 7, and then we're keeping negative 2 plus 6. 7 plus negative 7 is 0. So we have 0x plus 4. So then 0x is just 0. So we'd have 0 plus 4 or 4. Okay, so let's do a few together. If we have 4z minus z, we're going to rewrite this as 4z minus 1z. 4z minus 1z is the same as 4z plus negative 1z. So then we pull out our coefficients, 4 plus negative 1, and put them in parentheses, and then we just have our z left. So 4 plus negative 1 would be 3z. Okay, pause me and do j and k alone, and then come back and check your work. So we have 6 minus 3n plus 3n. We're going to rewrite it as 6 plus negative 3n plus 3n. We know that negative 3n and 3n are our like terms, so we're going to pull out our coefficients, keep our 6. So 6 plus negative 3 plus 3 times n, which we know is 0. So 6 plus 0n, 6 plus 0, which equals 6. If you can look at this and see that negative 3n plus 3n is 0, then you could just go right down to 6 plus 0n. 2g minus 3 plus 11 minus 8g, so we're going to change it to addition. 2g plus negative 3 plus 11 plus negative 8g. So we're going to rewrite our expression so our like terms are next to each other. So 2g plus negative 8g plus negative 3 plus 11. So 2 plus negative 8. We're going to pull out our coefficients and then multiply it by g. And then we have negative 3 plus 11, which we just put into parentheses. So we know that these two go together in the dark blue, and then these two in the light blue go together. So negative 2 plus negative 8 is negative 6g. Negative 3 plus 11 is 8, so negative 6g plus 8. And then we cannot combine these anymore because 8 doesn't have a g, so then we leave it like this, and we have negative 6g plus 8.
This is a reminder to Mrs. Regalado.
Sorry, there's an announcement going on at school, so I'm going to wait a second. But you can start reading the word problem.
beginning tomorrow. Make sure that you are prepared. Haley Curtis to the main office, please.
So at a concert, you buy some souvenir t-shirts for $12 each and the same number of CDs for $7.50 each. Write an expression in simplest form that represents the total. So we bought the same amount, but we're not sure how many. So if it's $12 for each t-shirt and $7.50 for each CD, so this is the price of the t-shirt, this is the price of the CD, this is how many we bought for each. Because it's the same, then we're just combining 12 and 750, which is 1950, multiply it by X. Okay, you have saved some money, your friend has saved $50 less than you. Write an expression in simplest form that represents the total amount of money you and your friend have saved. So if your savings is X, then, and your friend has saved $50 less than you, so you would take your savings and subtract 50, which equals your friend's savings. We want to find out the total amount of money that you and your friend have saved. So we're going to combine X and X minus 50. So we're going to go X plus X minus 50. We know that X and X are like terms, so X plus X is 2X. And then we're going to subtract 50, and because there's no other like terms, then that is our simplified answer. So our simplest form then is 2X minus 50. Okay, make sure you go on to NICU and take the 8-1 like terms NICU quiz. Have a super evening.